The knock on the door was loud, desperate, and insistent. When he opened it, a pair of furious eyes greeted him. "You think you can just forget us because of her?" the woman hissed. Behind her, two other girls stood, their faces a mix of anger and heartbreak. Zane sighed and leaned against the doorframe. This was the storm he'd been expecting. A year ago, Zane had been just another guy in the bustling city of Lagos. 30 years old, average-looking, and barely getting by with his small tailoring business. He never planned to live an extraordinary life, let alone become a legend among women. But everything changed the day Chioma walked into his shop. Chioma was gorgeous, the kind of beauty that turned heads wherever she went. She was also wealthy, confident, and unapologetically bold. She'd hired Zane to design a dress for a high-profile gala. During one of her fittings, the banter between them turned flirtatious. One thing led to another, and by the end of the night, Zane found himself in her luxurious apartment, experiencing a level of passion he hadn't known was possible. What neither of them expected was that Chioma would tell her friends. Word spread like wildfire among the city's elite women. Zane wasn't just skilled with his hands at tailoring, he had a gift for intimacy that left women spellbound. Suddenly, Zane's life changed. High-profile women, business executives, politicians, and socialites began seeking him out. They came under the guise of needing his tailoring services, but their true intentions were clear. Zane enjoyed the attention and the money that came with it. These women were willing to pay handsomely for his time and discretion. There was just one rule: no falling in love. Zane lived by that rule like a creed. Love complicated things. Love meant attachment, jealousy, and vulnerability. He had seen it ruin lives, and he wasn't about to let it ruin his. He gave these women what they wanted, took their money, and kept his emotions locked away. But then, Amara happened. Amara was different from the others. She had just moved to Lagos from Abuja, the daughter of a wealthy tycoon. Her family's name carried weight, but Amara was determined to make a life for herself away from their shadow. She came to Zane's shop one afternoon, dressed simply in jeans and a t-shirt, looking for a custom dress for an upcoming event. Zane didn't notice her wealth at first. What struck him was her laugh, soft, genuine, and unpretentious. Unlike the other woman, Amara wasn't trying to seduce him. She was kind, curious, and refreshingly real. That intrigued him. After weeks of fittings, Amara invited Zane for dinner to thank him for his work. Over a shared bottle of wine, the walls he had so carefully built began to crumble. That night, their intimacy was unlike anything he had experienced before. It wasn't just physical, it was emotional, raw, and terrifyingly real. For the first time, Zane broke his rule. He was falling in love. The problem was, word got out. The women who had once adored him now felt betrayed. They accused him of choosing Amara because of her wealth, her status. Some even threatened to expose his double life to the media. His once glamorous world became a battleground, and Amara was caught in the crossfire. But Amara wasn't one to back down. She stood by Zane, facing the whispers and the confrontations with grace. "Let them talk," she told him one night as they lay tangled in each other's arms. "What we have is real. That's all that matters." The fight reached its peak one evening when a group of the women stormed Zane's boutique. They demanded to see him, their voices loud and accusatory. Amara was there, watching from behind the counter, her expression calm but her eyes blazing with quiet determination. "You owe us," one of the women shouted. "You can't just abandon us for her." Zane stepped out from the back, his face set with resolve. "I don't owe anyone anything," he said firmly. "I gave you all what you wanted, but I never promised more than that." The words stung, but Zane stood his ground. His heart belonged to Amara now, and he wouldn't let anyone come between them. The confrontation turned chaotic. Some of the women hurled insults, while others tried to guilt Zane into returning to his old ways. Amara finally stepped forward, her voice calm but commanding. "Enough," she said. "Zane has made his choice, and it's me. If you can't accept that, then you need to leave." Her unwavering strength silenced the room. Slowly, one by one, the women left, their anger simmering but their fight spent. When the last one was gone, Zane turned to Amara, his heart swelling with gratitude and love. "Thank you," he whispered. Amara smiled and took his hand. "We're in this together, Zane. No one can tear us apart. But even the strongest love can falter." One evening, during a moment of weakness, Zane found himself at a private party where several of the women he had once entertained were present. It had been a hard day, and the combination of alcohol and their lingering allure clouded his judgment. He slipped into a room with one of them, a decision he instantly regretted but couldn't undo. The woman, knowing Zane's relationship with Amara, saw an opportunity. She took photos and recorded their brief encounter. The next morning, the evidence was sent to Zane's phone, accompanied by a chilling message, "Leave Amara, or we'll destroy you." Zane's world crumbled. He knew the woman's intent wasn't just to ruin his relationship but to regain control over him. When he confessed to Amara, her face turned pale, and tears welled in her eyes. "Why, Zane?" she asked, her voice breaking. "I stood by you through everything. Why would you betray me?" "I was weak," Zane admitted, his voice heavy with guilt. "It meant nothing. I love you, Amara. Only you." Amara didn't reply. She left their apartment that night, needing space to process the betrayal. The following days were agonizing for Zane as he tried to reach her, but she remained distant. Meanwhile, the women began spreading rumors, using the photos and videos to tarnish Zane's name further. But Amara wasn't easily broken. After a week, she returned, her eyes filled with both pain and determination. "If we're going to survive this, Zane, you need to fight for us. And you need to prove that I'm the only one you want." Zane vowed to do whatever it took to earn back her trust. Together, they faced the blackmail and the rumors head-on. Amara used her family's influence to silence the woman's schemes, while Zane publicly admitted his mistakes and cut ties with his past. It was a long, painful journey, but their love, though scarred, emerged stronger. Months later, with their bond repaired, Zane and Amara began planning their wedding. It was to be a small, private ceremony, an intimate celebration of their love. But as the date approached, Zane's younger sister, Ifeoma, went missing. At first, Zane thought it was a misunderstanding. Ifeoma was independent and often spent time with friends without informing anyone. But when a message arrived, his heart sank. The message was chilling: "Cancel the wedding, or you'll never see your sister again." Attached was a photo of Ifeoma, blindfolded and bound, sitting in a dark room. Zane recognized the voice in the accompanying audio. It was one of the women from his past. The same woman who had led the charge against him when he chose Amara. Zane's mind raced. He couldn't let anything happen to Ifeoma, but calling off the wedding would destroy everything he and Amara had fought to rebuild. He immediately informed Amara, who insisted they go to the police. However, Zane knew these women were powerful and cunning. Involving the authorities might escalate the situation. Amara placed her hand on Zane's. "We'll get her back," she said, her voice steady. "We won't let them win." Zane and Amara devised a plan. Amara used her family's extensive connections to locate the hideout where Ifeoma was being held. They discovered it was a rented apartment on the outskirts of Lagos. Zane, accompanied by Amara's trusted security team, approached the location cautiously. When they arrived, the tension was palpable. The woman who had orchestrated the kidnapping greeted Zane with a smug smile. "You think you can just walk away from us? You owe us, Zane." "I owe you nothing," Zane replied, his voice cold. "Let my sister go." The standoff was intense, but with the security team's intervention and Amara's influence, the kidnappers were apprehended, and Ifeoma was freed. She ran into Zane's arms, tears streaming down her face. "I knew you'd come for me," she whispered. As the police arrived to take the woman into custody, Zane and Amara stood side by side, their love and determination unshaken. The ordeal had tested them in ways they never imagined, but it also solidified their bond. On their wedding day, as Zane watched Amara walk down the aisle, he knew that no force in the world could come between them. Together, they had faced the darkest corners of his past and emerged victorious. Their love was no longer just a feeling, it was a testament to their resilience and unwavering commitment to each other. After their wedding, Zane and Amara decided to leave Lagos behind. The city had been both the place where they found love and nearly lost it. They wanted a fresh start, a place where their past couldn't haunt them, and so they relocated to Abuja. The capital city offered them amenity and a chance to rebuild their lives without the shadow of Zane's old reputation looming over them. Their new home was a modest but beautiful apartment in a quiet neighborhood. Amara quickly found work with a non-profit organization, while Zane opened a tailoring boutique in the city center. Business was slow at first, but he didn't mind. The calmness of their new life was a welcome change. For a while, everything seemed perfect. Zane and Amara thrived in their new environment, growing even closer as they settled into married life. But beneath the surface, danger was brewing, danger they couldn't have anticipated. It began innocently enough. A wealthy businessman named Chief Okonkwo visited Zane's boutique, impressed by his work. "Your reputation precedes you," Chief Okonkwo said, handing Zane a stack of cash for a custom suit. Zane smiled politely, pretending not to notice the emphasis on the word reputation. Over the weeks that followed, Chief Okonkwo became a frequent client, often bringing his young wife, Ada, to the shop. Ada was stunning, elegant and soft-spoken, with a charm that was impossible to ignore. She often lingered longer than necessary, watching Zane work, her gaze lingering a little too long. Zane noticed but dismissed it. He had no intention of jeopardizing his marriage. One evening, after a fitting, Ada stayed behind under the pretense of discussing a minor alteration. As the boutique's door clicked shut, she stepped closer to Zane. "You're different from other men," she said softly. "There's something about you, something irresistible." Zane froze. Memories of his past life flashed through his mind, but he shook them off. "I'm married, Ada," he said firmly, stepping back. She laughed, a soft, melodic sound. "I'm not asking for anything serious, Zane. Just one night. No one has to know." Zane felt a pang of guilt even as her words stirred something within him. But he pushed the temptation aside. "I can't. Please, don't bring this up again." Ada left, but the encounter left Zane unsettled. He didn't tell Amara, fearing it would worry her or worse, bring back the trust issues they had worked so hard to overcome. Things took a darker turn when Zane received an envelope at the boutique. Inside were photos of him and Ada during her visits, accompanied by a note, "One mistake is all it takes to ruin everything." Zane's hands trembled as he read the message. He hadn't done anything wrong, but the photos were incriminating. He realized someone had been watching, waiting for an opportunity to exploit his past. That evening, Zane finally confided in Amara. As he spoke, her face remained calm, but her eyes betrayed her fear. "We can't let them manipulate us," she said firmly. "We've faced worse before. We'll face this too." But the blackmailer wasn't finished. A few days later, Zane received another message, this time with a video of Ada confessing her attraction to him during her visit. The blackmailer demanded a hefty sum of money or threatened to send the video to Amara and Chief Okonkwo. Zane and Amara decided to confront Ada directly. To their surprise, Ada denied any involvement. "I didn't send those photos or videos," she insisted. "But whoever did has dangerous connections. Be careful." As Zane and Amara tried to untangle the web of deceit, their relationship was tested once again. The stress of the situation weighed heavily on them, leading to arguments and moments of doubt. But each time, they found their way back to each other, refusing to let the darkness win. One fateful night, the situation escalated. Zane received a message with an ultimatum: meet the blackmailer in a secluded location or risk losing everything. Against Amara's wishes, Zane decided to go alone, determined to protect her and their new life. The meeting took place in an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city. Zane was met by a shadowy figure who stepped into the dim light. It wasn't just one person, it was a group of individuals, including a familiar face from Lagos. One of the women from his past had resurfaced, seeking revenge for the humiliation she believed he had caused her. "You thought you could escape your past," she sneered. "You thought you could leave us behind and live happily ever after. Not without consequences." Before Zane could respond, the door burst open, and Amara appeared with a team of private security guards. "You didn't think I'd let you face this alone, did you?" she said, her voice steady despite the fear in her eyes. The blackmailers were caught off guard, and the security team quickly subdued them. As the authorities arrived, Zane and Amara stood side by side, their love and resilience shining brighter than ever. In the weeks that followed, Zane and Amara worked tirelessly to ensure their lives would no longer be vulnerable to the ghosts of the past. They strengthened their bond, learning to trust each other completely and to face challenges together, no matter how daunting. Despite their efforts, Amara's parents grew increasingly concerned about the lingering threats. They couldn't bear to see their daughter and her husband constantly battling shadows from the past. After much discussion, Amara's parents made a bold decision. They arranged for Zane and Amara to relocate abroad. "It's not running away," Amara's father said during one of their discussions. "It's about starting over completely. Somewhere far enough where none of this can touch you again." Zane hesitated at first. "I don't want to feel like I'm abandoning everything I've worked for," he admitted. But Amara took his hand. "We're not abandoning anything," she said. "We're choosing us. Choosing a future where we can finally have peace." With the support of Amara's parents, they moved to Canada, settling in a quiet suburb where no one knew their names or their story. Amara found a position at a local charity, while Zane began tailoring again, quickly gaining a small but loyal clientele. For the first time in years, they felt a sense of true freedom. As they settled into their new lives, Zane and Amara embraced the opportunity to start fresh. They explored their new city, formed new friendships, and built a routine that gave them peace and stability. But just as they began to feel truly safe, an unexpected visitor disrupted their calm. One day, as Zane was closing his boutique, a man stepped in. He was tall, sharply dressed, and carried an air of authority. "Mr. Zane," he said, extending a hand. "My name is Marcus. I represent a client who has a business proposition for you." The proposal seemed innocent at first, an offer to design exclusive suits for a high-profile event. But as Marcus spoke, Zane noticed the subtle undertones in his words. "Our client knows of your talent and your history," Marcus said with a knowing smile. "They believe you're the perfect fit for this job." Zane's heart sank. He had worked hard to leave his past behind, but it seemed it had followed him across continents. He politely declined the offer, but Marcus's parting words lingered. Think about it, Mr. Zane. Some paths are harder to outrun than others. When Zane told Amara about the encounter, she immediately sensed the danger. We need to be careful, she said. We can't let anyone pull us back into that life. But the threat was closer than they realized. A few days later, Zane received an envelope containing photos of him with Marcus, along with a note, accept the job, or the truth about your past will be revealed. Amara's fears were confirmed when they began receiving anonymous calls and messages. The blackmailers had found them even here, in their new sanctuary. We'll face this together, Amara said firmly, refusing to let the fear consume them. The couple decided to seek legal advice and hired a private investigator to uncover the identity of their tormentors. As the investigation unfolded, they discovered that Marcus was connected to a larger network of individuals who thrived on exploiting people's secrets. The revelation was both alarming and empowering. Through perseverance and unwavering support for each other, Zane and Amara managed to gather enough evidence to expose the blackmailers. With the help of local authorities, the network was dismantled, and Marcus was arrested. The ordeal brought Zane and Amara even closer, proving once again that their love could withstand any storm. With the danger behind them, Zane and Amara finally felt the weight lift from their shoulders. They celebrated their triumph with a quiet evening at home, reflecting on the journey that had brought them here. No matter what happens, Zane said, holding Amara close, we'll always choose each other. Amara smiled, her eyes filled with love and determination. Always.